So, in honor of being back to school, we started a series called Head of the Class. And the series is centered around subjects we may have struggled with in school, but in the Bible, those same subjects we pass with flying colors. And so last week we started the series off with a message called I'm Not That Good at Math. Did that bless anybody? Amen. Amen. That replay should be up this week. I'm not that good at math, centered around Abram, and the Lord gave him an astronomical number. Abram couldn't solve it, but in the end, God did the math for him. And we decided to establish that where God has taken us, the math don't matter. Oh, yeah, they're going to write you a check like the math don't matter. They're going to open up a door for you like the math don't matter. He's going to make a way for you like the math don't matter. Whatever you struggle with in terms of math, the Lord says that I'm balancing the books because your faith, and I have accounted your faith as righteousness. Amen. All right, y'all got to catch that replay if you didn't get it. This week, turn with me to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Verses 9 through 13. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 9 through 13. And here is Solomon, who's in his old age, and scholars say that he's writing to the wise in Israel. Well, we can conclude then that the wise in Israel applies to us as the wise. And what I find interesting about that is, isn't it interesting that people who already have wisdom are seeking more wisdom? Too often we think we've arrived in our understanding and we don't need any more, which is a problem. But Anthony, you know what's even worse than that? The folk who need it and don't think they need it and ain't got the wisdom and ain't looking for no more, ain't even looking to get to the first principle of wisdom, yet Solomon writes to the wise. You have it? Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 9 through 13 says, and moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yes, he pondered and sought out and set in order many proverbs. The preacher sought to find acceptable words, and what was written was upright words of truth. The words of the wise are like goads, and the words of scholars are like well-driven nails, given by one shepherd. Notice the capitalization of the word shepherd, meaning that that's God. And further, my son, be admonished by these, of making many books there is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. When he says man's, he ain't talking about a gender, he's talking about humanity. Solomon is the author of Ecclesiastes, and what he wants us to know is that he's verbalized many proverbs, he's written many books and read many books, and he wants us to know that it's okay to read and it's okay to search out scholarly works. However, the one thing he wants us to get is that he can save us a little time in our study by letting us know that at the end of it all, the only thing that matters is the conclusion of the matter is that we need to fear God and keep his commandments, for this is our all. Let us hear the conclusion of the matter. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Let us hear the conclusion. And for a few short moments, I want to speak from the subject of Cliff's Notes. Cliff's Notes. Amen. Told you a few months ago that I was going to start working with AI because I'm trying to simplify my life in all the things that I have to do. And so, although AI can never replace human touch, it can replace some human tendencies. And one of the tendencies us humans have is we don't always spend enough time reading until comprehension. And our attention spans aren't what they used to be. And even while I was preparing this message, I gotta be honest with y'all, I wanted to turn the game on. I just told y'all I was off of it, but I lied. I wanted to turn the game on. I wanted to check on Coach Prime and see how Colorado was doing. And I wanted to hurry up and get past this part of the preparation so I can turn on the Alabama and Texas game. I wanted to do this. I was looking at my app, ESPN app. I kept picking up my phone, checking my messages, and looking to see who texts me, because I usually put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Ain't that crazy? I put my phone on Do Not Disturb on Saturdays while I'm getting prepared for the message, and then I'm checking to see who texted me. What you put your phone on Do Not Disturb for? If you think that people going to text you and you think the text messages are that important, take your phone off of Do Not Disturb. Oh, my God, I get distracted. I went downstairs and started talking and striking up a conversation with my wife. Hey, girl, what's going on? What you sleep? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. I was just coming in here to check on you and see what's going on. Lolo ran up on me. I'm playing with Lolo, petting Lolo, gotten Lolo some breakfast. I'm doing all of this stuff trying to avoid all of the arduous things that comes with reading and studying, because sometimes I don't always spend enough time like I should reading things to comprehension. That's been a problem for me. I'm just going to be honest. Oh my God, and this message is for folk who struggle with reading, because we all at some point or another deal with our reading. We don't like to read. We don't like to spend enough time with something that we need to spend time with to get the understanding. And so here's what I have to understand is that when we have an arduous assignment in front of us, we can get distracted to the point where we don't deal with comprehension. Therefore, when I'm in these type of situations, my comprehension is compromised because of my complacent need to comport certain tendencies. Can I use that alliteration again? I worked on that alliteration, and I got that from reading. Ooh, I know a little vocabulary words here and there. My comprehension is compromised because of my complacent need to comport certain tendencies. Oh, my God, I can remember when I first started reading. Oh, my God, I was excited about reading because when I saw the words, I knew the words. Oh, my God, and I could sound them out if I needed to get the word. I could sound it out and understand what the word was. It was a wonderful experience and a wonderful formative growth opportunity for me. I could identify subject-verb agreement. I was really on my high horse then when I understood that a subject has a verb that goes along with it, and you can kind of put the sentence together. Oh my God, I was excited to have sentence structure and excited to understand what syntax was once I got a little older. The way you structure a sentence helps you to understand how to communicate what it is that you're saying so that people can know what it is that you're saying. That's something that my wife struggled with. Oh, I ain't gonna put her out there bad today, but she struggles with a structure because she don't always put a subject with what she talking about. She'll come in there and strike up a conversation with me, and then I'm talking about what she just talked to me about and didn't know that she transitioned to some other subject because she didn't put a subject with her sentence. I knew what certain punctuations meant. However, if you gave me a lengthy passage to read, I could read it, but I didn't always comprehend what I was reading. Okay, y'all gonna sit here and act like I was the one in remedial classes and y'all didn't have this problem and it didn't bother y'all at all. Y'all never came up against this issue. Oh my God, I can read the thing. I can read it word for word. I can sound it out if I needed to. I can make the verbs and the subject conjugate. I can do all of these different things that I needed to do. But at the end, if it was too long, I got bored before the passage was over and forgot what it was that I was reading and didn't comprehend a word of what I said. And if the teacher came back and said, now, okay, you've read the whole passage, now give me a summary of what you read, I'll be thinking about something that I read in the first paragraph and then trying to tie it into something at the bottom, at the last paragraph, and forget all the paragraphs in between because I didn't comprehend what I was reading. I could read it. I knew what the word said. I knew how to make the subject and the verbs meet. I knew how to get some agreement in there. But when it came down to giving a comprehensive explanation of what it is that I just read, I couldn't do it and I got frustrated. Why? Because I didn't understand. Why is it that I know what I'm looking at, but I can't tell you what it is? And sometimes that's how life is to us. Sometimes we're in the middle of crisis and we're in the middle of situations and we can look at it and I know what it is, but I can't explain to you what it is. I know what I'm feeling, but I can't explain my feelings. I know what I'm experiencing, but I can't explain what I'm experiencing. I know what I see, but I can't explain what I see. And you thinking that I'm crazy. You thinking that I'm tripping. You thinking that I'm just being funny. But I'm telling you the truth. I know what it is that I'm looking at, but I can't tell you what the outcome of it is. I can't tell you how it's making me feel it. I can't tell you how it's making me experience all types of headaches and all types of doubts and all types of fears and all types of anguish. I see it, but I can't explain it. Look at somebody and say, you see it, but you can't always explain it. And people think you crazy. People think you're trying to keep them out your business. People will ask you, well, why didn't you tell me? Oh, my God, because I saw you read before, and I don't know if you can tell me what it is. You ain't a good interpreter of everything that's going on around you. Look at your life. It's a wreck. And when you can interpret your situation, then I'll help you. Have you help me interpret my situation? Or if you can't interpret how you in the situation you in and how you got to where you are, then don't ask me to help you. Ask you for help in interpreting my situation. I have the tendency to do stuff I can't explain. I have the tendency to say stuff I can't explain. Where did that come from? Something ever come out of your mouth and you was like, man, where did that come from? You ever had a Freudian slip? You know what a Freudian slip is? Sigmund Freud says that, he was a psychologist, and so Sigmund Freud says that sometimes when stuff come out of people's mouth is what they really want to say, but it just slipped out of their mouth. I've had Freudian slips. It was like, and didn't mean to say it, but it came out of my mouth. Oh my God, I think of stuff I can't explain. I woke up the other morning, I think I put it on Threads, and my first thought in the morning was, and I don't know why I think like this, why is it that people will go out of their way to come to someone's viewing, but will ignore the person while they were alive and well? Are they just trying to confirm that the person dead? These kind of stuff that come to my mind, I can't explain why I wake up with these kind of thoughts. I don't know why I wake up with these kind of thoughts. Some stuff just come to me and I can't explain it. And this causes me to be unable to relate to my peers. It causes me to be unable to add much to conversations. Can I tell y'all part of the reason why I started reading a lot? Because I got tired of being the person in the conversation, everybody talking over. I ain't know nothing about world leadership. I ain't know nothing about what was going on in the economy. I ain't know nothing about what was happening in politics. I ain't know nothing about what was going on this particular front. And I'm not saying that you just need to just do a heavy, deep dive on the stuff, but at least read enough to know what people are talking about. How many of you ever been in a conversation and it was a one-sided conversation because the other person didn't know what the conversation and the subject was about? All right, don't raise your hand. How many of you have been the person who didn't know what the subject was and you was the one who was one-sided in the conversation and you were trying to ease your way out of the conversation like that little Homer Simpson meme where he just fade into the hedges and disappear because you ain't know what them people were talking about? Part of the reason why I started reading a lot is so that I can have something of value to add to a conversation. Reading is a roadmap, but comprehension gets you to your destination. Did y'all hear what I said? Reading is a roadmap, but comprehension gets you to your destination. Because if you're sitting there with a map, but you don't know that I-95 north don't lead to Miami, you got a problem. You headed towards Atlanta. You headed past Atlanta on up into some other parts of the country. You headed towards New York, and you trying to get to Miami, and you on 95 North because you got a roadmap, but you can't comprehend the difference between north and south. And many times that's how we live our life. Good instructions, but poor articulation and comprehension of the instructions. And so we end up in places we shouldn't be. We end up in circumstances we shouldn't be. It's not because the instructions were poor. It's because our comprehension is bad. And Cliff Notes, catch this, Cliff's Notes are tools that help students comprehend what they read. In other words, you still must read to benefit from Cliff's Notes. They don't exempt you from the assignment. They assist you with the assignment. Did you hear me? They don't exempt you from the assignment. They assist you with the assignment. You have to read a chapter, then go to the Cliff Notes to confirm and comprehend what you read. You have to read the script, then go to the Cliff Notes to confirm and comprehend what you read. They aid in your understanding. They don't ease you into abdication. Okay. Some of us have abdicated our learning responsibility for shortcuts. We've sided with ease when we should have supplemented the hard work with assistance. Okay, let me help you understand what I'm talking about. We want life to work, but we don't want to work with life. Therefore, everything we don't want is what we end up with because of the shortcut. We're too dependent upon a shortcut. Okay. Let me help you understand something. A heuristic. Let's look at a heuristic. A heuristic is a shortcut, a mental shortcut that you can use only after you've been through the hard part first. So, in other words, when you have a situation that you've been through, let's say it's a relationship situation. Let's say it's a career situation. Let's say it's on the job and you've seen this situation before and the outcome wasn't good. The heuristic, when you see it developing again, will tell you that 9 times out of 10, more than likely, this is the same situation that got you in the mess you were in the last time. You got the shortcut, but you went through the hard part first, the lesson you learned through the previous situation to get to the shortcut. We want shortcuts, but we don't want the work that help us to get to the shortcut. And some things you will never get until you go through a hard lesson first. Okay. That wasn't good enough for you. Here's an example of what I'm talking about on how to supplement the hard work. In the past week, I've used AI twice for some situations. One was I had a paper I needed to write, and it had to be summarized a certain way. And so I wrote the paper, and then I put it in the AI and had it summarized to the professor's specifications. I did the work, but AI gave me a shortcut to get the job done the way she wanted it done. Another situation was I had some contractual language that I was looking at, and I need to make some calls, some business calls. And so I was like, man, I don't know what these people talking about in this contract, but I got to get this out. So I took the contractual language, put it in AI, had AI summarize the contractual language. So when I started making calls, I could explain to the person on the other end what it is that I'm looking for. But I still had to do the work. AI gave me a shortcut, but I still had to write my paper first. AI gave me a shortcut, but I still had to make the hard phone calls first. You see, too often we want a shortcut, but we don't want no work. Give me the shortcut, but don't give me the work. Give me the shortcut, but don't take me through the hard parts. Give me the shortcut, but don't make me do nothing hard. Can I tell y'all something and still be your friend? Everything you want out of life is on the other side of something hard. We want to be built up physically, but we don't like working out. We don't like checking they died. I died. We want money in the bank, but we spend every dime we get. We don't want a budget. Budget is a cuss word in our house. Come on. We want to be very sharp, but we don't like to read. We don't like to study nothing. We don't like to spend time learning nothing. We just go around with buffoonery and think we're going to have some information that somebody going to want to listen to and hear. Everything you want out of life is on the other side of something hard. And you know what else I learned? It's hard to do the work, but it's also hard to not do the work and end up with the results you don't want. So you got to choose your hard. Got to choose your hard. Because to not do it is just as hard as to go ahead and doing it. Jim Rome used to say, what he said, I'll get to it again if I can remember it. I can't think of it right now. But he used to say, he used to say that the work weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. choose your weight. You want to deal with a few ounces? Or do you want to deal with the tons of regret of what you shouldn't have done, what you should have done that you didn't do? Okay. This ain't going to shout nobody today, but I'm going to give it to you. Sometimes you got to go through something that will make your relationship with God make sense. Solomon gives us the Cliff's Notes, which is fear God and keep his commandments, but you're not absolved from the responsibility of learning what you need to learn that will help you to appreciate your fear of God. There's some things you just got to learn that will help you to understand that your relationship with God makes sense. Because if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have made it through that. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have got on the opposite side of that. If it wasn't for God, that door wouldn't have opened. I would have collapsed under the pressure. I would have given up because I wasn't strong enough. I didn't think I was strong enough. I didn't think I was mighty enough. I didn't think I was wise enough. I didn't think I was mature enough. But now that I look back over my life, there's a whole lot of things that I got through because of my fear of God. And so sometimes you got to go through something that will make your relationship with God make sense. And sometimes you got to go through something that will make your deference of God make sense. Some things about God will never make sense until life touches you in a hard way. And you go through a hard season. There's some things about God that I still got questions on, but they making sense now because I've gone through a hard season. Lord, why didn't you connect me with this? Because I wanted you to learn it the way I wanted you to learn it. Lord, why didn't you put me in them circles? Because I didn't want you in them circles. I want you right where I got you. Some things don't make sense until God brings you through a hard season. It was hard. It was good for me that I was afflicted, that I may learn the ways of the Lord. Some things will never make sense until you walk through a hard season. Some things will never make sense until you survive some hard things, until you come through some hard moments. I didn't know that I can go through what I went through at the end of 2021, lost my older brother, and still got on the road and preached, and still got this church together, and still did a whole lot of stuff. Why? Because some things you will never know about your God until you come out of a hard place. You will never know about your God until you come out of a hard place. Ooh, and Solomon said, I'm giving you the Cliff's Notes. I'm going to give you the Cliff's Notes, but you've got to have some experiences so that these Cliff's Notes make sense. You're going to have to do some reading of your own life. You're going to have to do some reading of some circumstances. You're going to have to do some reading of your family history. You're going to have to do some reading of some experiences that you've walked through. And so that by the time you get to the end of studying yourself, see, some of us don't even study ourselves, much less study somebody else. You don't even know everything about you. You done put limits on yourself that ain't got no business being there. With your self-deprecating and self-limiting beliefs, you put limits on yourself that ain't got no business being there, and you ain't studied yourself to understand your own tendencies so that you can get the Cliff Notes on them. A lot I've learned in the past few years. Watch it. I've learned I can preach to a crowd or preach to just a few people, and you still gonna get some good preaching. Because I don't predicate my preaching on who's listening. I predicate on my preaching on what God showed me and how it aligns with my life. I can dance in my own office. Sometimes when I'm preparing for what God has for me, I break down and shout, oh, that's good right there, Lord. Thank you for showing me that. Oh, that's good right there, Lord. Thank you for revealing that to me, because my life ain't predicated on what other folk do. My life is predicated on what Reko Holland do. And as long as I'm rooted in God, I'm going to keep doing the thing like he has me to do it, and I don't care what nobody else say about it. All right. Here it is. Can I take a swig of water? I came back last week, preached too strong. My throat was sore after 4 weeks off. Throat was sore. It was like working a new muscle, man. If I could have drank some Ben Gay, I would have drank it. Man, soothed my throat. Anyway, Solomon went through some hard seasons to give us this conclusion. And why do I say that? When Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes, he's in the twilight of his life. He's seen everything that life could throw at you. Watch this. He's been with all kinds of women. He's had sensual pleasures we can't even think about, let alone talk about in church. He's had money. He's had property. He's had influence and prestige. However, how we know that life has happened to him is, catch this, in Ecclesiastes, he's had to fight for the position of wisdom he has. Why do I say that? He's been through all that he's been through. And by the time we get to Ecclesiastes, he doesn't identify himself as King Solomon. He identifies himself as a preacher. He calls himself the preacher. And can I tell you that life can happen to you to the point where your accomplishments and accoutrements don't even matter to you no more. Man, don't call me king, call me preacher. Man, I'm just happy to be with God. I'm just happy to still be walking with him. I'm just happy to still know him. I'm just happy to still have a relationship with him. It was painful, my God, but it showed me my calling. Did y'all hear that? It was painful, but it showed me my calling. It was tragic, but it introduced me to my assignment. It hurt for a little while, but the same thing that hurt me in one season helped me in the next. And I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, what you learn from him is that everything that you go through has redeemable value. Oh, God told me to tell you, don't throw what you're going through in this season away, because it's going to help you in the next season. The lessons you learn in this season going to help you in the next season. The doors that close on you in this season going to help you in the next season. The relationships you gain in this season can help you in the next season. Even if it helps you through what you learned from it, even if it helps you from what you didn't get from it, even if it helps you from what you didn't understand from it now, it's going to benefit you later, because everything that you go through in this season will help you in your next season. But you've got to learn how to hold on to what God showed you so that you can get what he wants you to get through the season that you're in. It hurt, but it held. I was uncomfortable, but I got free. I didn't like going through what I see. Some of us don't understand. We feel a certain way because certain people ain't in our life no more. Certain doors ain't open for us anymore. Certain phone calls and text messages we're not getting anymore. And you're just in an uncomfortable seat. Hold on a little while longer. Don't throw away that feeling that you got. Don't throw it in the trash right about now. You've got to understand that it's going to help you in your next. It hurt, but it helped. Oh, it hurt, but it healed me. Oh, it hurt, but it lifted me. Why? Because I learned what I needed to learn from what I went through so that I can use it in my next. Somebody say Cliff's Notes. Watch this. The reason why we can trust Solomon's Cliff's Notes is because by the time he reaches his conclusion about life, he's lived more life than the average person can imagine. Here it is. Each stage of his life is chronicled as a book of the Bible. Catch this. Scholars say that the Songs of Solomon were the first stage of his life. And if you know anything about the Songs of Solomon is one of the most sexually explicit books in the Bible. They talking about all kinds of stuff in that book. Then Proverbs is in the middle of his life. And if you know anything about Proverbs, it's one of the most profound wisdom books in the Bible. Then Ecclesiastes is in his final years. So then, he has a stage of youthful lust. He has a stage of profound wisdom. And he has a stage of seasoned enlightenment where he's spending his last years pouring into the lives of other people so that they don't make the mistakes he made. But watch this. In the Bible, the wisdom is first. The enlightenment is second. And the lust is last. Okay. What this tells us is his lust may have been first chronologically in his life. But when God arranged how he wanted his story to be told, it ain't nothing for us to worry about because he didn't put the worst part of Solomon's life first when he tells his story. Two things we need to get from this. Watch this. Number one, we always talking about how many wives and concubines Solomon had. But when God arranges your story, he don't put the wrong you did out front first. People will put your wrong out front first. People will put what you did out front first. People will put what you said out front first. But when God arranges your story, he puts the good you did first and allow the wrong to be there as a reminder to not do it no more. Number two, in the end, what we learn from this is the way Solomon's story is arranged, with wisdom first, enlightenment and pouring into others second, and lust last, is that in the end, the flesh is the least important thing about your life. Did you hear me? In the end, the flesh is the least important thing about your life. And what you do to glorify your flesh is the least important. What you do to appease your flesh is the least important. It's amazing that when we study Solomon's life, we got to go through wisdom and enlightenment first, because before we're introduced to his wild side. Why? Here's y'all shouting part. This is going to help somebody. God says that your past will not introduce you in this season. Your mistakes will not introduce you in this season. The thing you did that's so salacious and got everybody tantalizing and talking and gossiping and finger pointing will not introduce you in this season. God told me to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, that by the time people find out your wild side, it's going to be too late. They're going to be in love with your wisdom. They're going to be in love with your enlightenment. They're going to be in love with how you pour into others. They're going to be in love with how you sacrifice for others. They're going to be in love with how you do for others. They're going to be like, man, I didn't know you used to do that, but it don't matter. I didn't know you used to think like that, but it don't matter. I didn't know you used to go there, but it don't matter. I didn't know you was on the pole, but it don't matter. I didn't know you was on the stroll, but it don't matter. I didn't know you was in the trap house, but it don't matter. Because by the time they realize your good parts, they're going to be so in love with the real you and the new you that the old you won't even matter to them. Don't come to me talking about what she used to do. Don't come talking to me about what he used to be. Because by the time they realize that you had a wild side. I tell people about my wild side all the time. Maybe I need to stop putting that out front. God didn't do it. Why we put stuff out front that God didn't put out front? It won't matter. All right. Let me get out of here. Y'all got brunch. I tried to put an AI preacher together this week so I can go to brunch like everybody else. All right, here it is. Ecclesiastes is a memoir of sorts regarding Solomon's highs and his lows. He uses third-person coded language to address things he liked about his reign and things he didn't like about his reign. Things he wished he would have done and things he did do. And what I find interesting about this is he's critical of himself, which takes the sting out of people's criticism. Okay, I'm not telling you to be self-deprecating or anything like that. But when you hard on yourself, it's hard for other people to be hard on you. Because ain't nobody gonna be harder on you than you. So I don't need you to come tell me what I should do. I already know what I should do. If you ain't gonna help me do it, shut up. Is that too much for y'all? I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm here to tell you, I already know what I should be doing. If you ain't going to help me do it, then shut up. But if you going to help me do it, you can talk to me all day. I had somebody tell me one time, well, you need to do this, and you need to do that. And I was like, man, I got to do something else. But no, don't do this. Just don't let so-and-so hear you say that you got to do this. I said, when so-and-so writes me a check and helps me pay my bills, I'll sit right there and tell him how handsome he is. But until he writes me a check and helps me pay my bill, I don't care what so-and-so think. We care too much about people's criticism. And that's why we don't live the lives that we should live and be as fulfilled as we should be, because we're too worried about what somebody else think about us. If I wasn't on camera, I would have said something. But I gotta keep it bowdlerized. And at the same time, watch this, he relishes the good times he had, which takes the need of people's affirmation out of his life. You got to learn how to celebrate yourself. Reason why so many people run around here talking about they won't celebrate. Why you ain't clapping? Man, I'm so sick of that mess. You can tell who ain't for you. When your friends go silent, they hating. When your friends ain't clapping. Watch. Man, when you doing what you need to do for you, you don't need nobody to clap for you. You will clap for yourself. Oh, you will pat yourself on the back. You will look at yourself in the mirror and say, man, you sure look good. Oh, I like that outfit on you. I like how you said that. I like how you put that. I like how you dress. I like how you smell. I like how you carry yourself. And when you can build yourself, the Bible tells us that we are to build ourselves up in our most holy faith. Why you need somebody else to affirm you for you to have faith in yourself? You need somebody else to affirm you before you have faith in yourself. What's wrong with you? Okay, I'm gonna act right. I'm gonna act right before it's over with. Next week. Watch this. I think how Solomon sets this up is critical, because when you allow other people to tell your story, they can tell it with the wrong conclusion. Did you hear what I said? When you allow other people to tell your story, they can tell it with the wrong conclusion. And I read something the other day where a man said that the only exercise some people get is jumping to conclusions. Some people are just waiting to jump to a conclusion. And when you allow them to tell your story instead of you telling your story, they can develop the conclusion and shape it however they want. But I like what Solomon did. Solomon like, I'm going to tell my own story, and I'm going to give my own conclusion to my story. I'm the one lived it. I'm the one went through all of that. I'm the one who suffered my brother trying to usurp the throne before I ever even got here. And my mama had to go and beg my sick daddy to keep his promise with his crazy self. I had to be raised by Nathan the prophet because my daddy was too busy chasing women and doing all kinds of stuff, making bad decisions while he was in the king. He was a great king. And y'all call him a great king, but he was a horrible father. I'm just going to tell the truth. David was a great king, but he was a bad daddy. He let one brother rape his daughter, and the other brother wanted to kill his brother, but David wouldn't do anything about it, so he ended up killing his brother. And then the brother who ended up killing his brother came after his father and ended up getting killed himself because he was chasing his father. And then there was another brother who raised up who tried to take the throne from Solomon, and Bathsheba had to go and confess to go to David and remind David of what he promised his son. And I had to go through all of that, and now I'm going to tell my story. How many of you know you don't get to tell the story of the person who go through hell? The person who survived hell. You don't get to tell their story. You don't get to come to your own conclusion about them. You don't get to say what you want to say about them. You don't get to think how you want to think about them. You don't get to tell folk what you want to tell about them. That person survived hell, and now they have a right to give the conclusion to their story. Oh, y'all want this man's conclusion or what? Solomon's like, I made some mistakes. I didn't always make good decisions. I got in some trouble. I lost some money. I got involved with too many women. But watch this. I also did some good too. There was a woman, two women fighting over a baby. And one of the women was like, Solomon came up, okay then, if this is both of y'all's baby, then let's split the baby in two. Each one of you take a half. And the woman who the baby really belonged to was like, no, don't hurt the baby. Just let her have it before you hurt it. And Solomon was like, you the mama. Because if only a mama would want her baby not to go through no harm. He solved that problem. Oh my God. And then we forget about what happened when the Queen of Sheba came. The Bible says that when the Queen of Sheba came to seek out Solomon's wisdom, that we talk about how she blessed Solomon, but we don't talk about all the things that Solomon did to get the blessing. He gave her the wisdom she was looking for, but the Bible also says that when she saw his palace, when she saw his servant, when she saw that they were happy, when she saw how people were sitting at his feet, when she saw, oh my God, I told my daddy this. I said, Daddy, you got to realize that the Queen of Sheba didn't give anything until she saw everything. And there's some things that you will never get until you can show you can handle it. There's some blessings you will never walk in until you can show folk you can handle those blessings. There's some experiences you will never have until you can show folk that you can handle it. When she saw everything, all of his wisdom, all of his servants, his whole palace, and how everything was in order, Bible says that she said, I came for your wisdom, but the half has not been told, because now I see everything that you got in your palace. I see how you in order. I see how wise you are. I see how stable you are. Now I'm going to bless you. And because of Solomon's wisdom, and because he was good with money, Scripture lets us know that throughout the days of Solomon, all of his days, the land never lacked in prosperity, and they never had to go to war. So we won't talk about how many women he slept with. That's all we can take from Solomon. He had 300 wives, 700 concubines. Why we got to always put the bad stuff out first? We ain't going to talk about the good the man did. Solomon tells his story. And in the end, here's the conclusion. You see, people love to highlight what you got wrong, but they omit what you got right. So you might as well tell your own story and don't let people work the narrative. Here's the conclusion. So, in the end, what Ecclesiastes is really about is three core principles of reading: context, comprehension, and conclusion. And by telling his story, Solomon gives context to his conclusion. And the only question is, do we comprehend? Here it is. Do we understand that all is vanity? Do we understand nothing new is under the sun? Do we understand that to everything there is a season, a time for a purpose under heaven? A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast away, a time to gather again, a time to embrace, a time to refrain, or a time to gain, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to throw away, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time to keep silent, a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. That whatsoever you got to get in this season, you got to understand that I've been between all times. And Solomon is trying to understand that, help you to understand that I've seen good times and I've seen bad times and I've seen every time in between. But at the conclusion of the whole matter is that you got to understand that no matter how time is treating you and whatever time has you and whatever you experience from time, the only thing that matters is that you fear God and keep his commandments, because that is the end of all men. Is there a time to weep? Yeah. Is there a time to rejoice? Yeah. Is there a time to go through? Yeah. Is there a time to come out? Yeah. But in the end of all time, the only thing that matters is that I hold on to God's unchanging hand, that I build my hopes on things eternal. Hold on to God's unchanging hand. I know that there's a lot that you go through. I know that there's a lot that you're experiencing. I know that there's a lot that you're walking through. But there's a time for you to be broken. But there's a time for you to get yourself together. It's time to dress up. It's time to show up. It's time to do the thing that God has laid before you to do. Somebody say yeah. Here it is. The conclusion of the matter is that he's given us context that we can comprehend that in the end, as complicated of a study as life is, you can never go wrong when you fear God and keep his commandments. Solomon said you can read books, you can attend lectures, you should. But I'm going to make it a little easier on you. Trust the Lord and lean not on your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Give me some close music real quick. In the end, what we got to learn to start doing, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, is we've got to learn how to take advice from somebody who's lived life the way we want to live it and come out the way we want to come out. A few things we need to understand. The Lord woke me up this morning and said, remind them, tell the people this. When you go to verse 10, it says, the preacher sought to find acceptable words, and what was written was upright words of truth. What that means is, in life, there's no easy way to put certain things. Sometimes we look for acceptable ways to say stuff, but the way you learned it was hard. And you can't sugarcoat what you learned just to appease somebody who wants an easy way. You can't sugarcoat what you learned to appease someone who wants an easy way out. Solomon says, I look for an acceptable way to tell you. But bro, this ain't easy. I got to give you the raw truth. He says, in the end, the words were upright and true. They may have been hard words, but they true. They may have been difficult to deal with, but they're true. They may have been difficult to listen to, but they're true. Verse 11, he says, the words of the wise are like golds, and the words of scholars are like driven nails. You know what a goad is? A goad is an instrument they used to use to prod animals to get them to move. It was a sharp instrument, sharp enough to hurt, but not sharp enough to impale them and kill them. Watch this. What we learn from this is the lessons we learn will be painful, but if you live through the pain, it'll get you to where you're going. And not only will it get you to where you're going, he says that the words of scholars are like driven nails. When you get there, you're going to be stable. See, many of us have been driven, but we're driven on one thing in one season, driven about something else in another season, driven about something else in another season. The Lord is saying that you're going through seasons of pain, and it may be painful, but it's going to get you to where you're going, and it's going to be something stable when you get there. Watch this. Verse 12 says, and further, my son, be admonished by these, of making many books there is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. Catch this. Verse 12 is telling us life is a study, so be a lifelong learner. Life is a study, so be a lifelong learner. You know, one of the mistakes we make is that when we finish our formal education, we think we've arrived, so we don't need to learn nothing else. You know what the Lord told me the other day? He said, when you finish your formal education, you need to intensify your learning, because now you got to apply what you learned in the real world. And the world don't care about your diploma. It don't care about your degree. It don't care about no certificate you got. It don't care about none of that. You've got to continue to develop yourself and be a lifelong learner. And if you don't like to read, you on your way to the road of failure, because information changes all the time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Solomon gave us the Cliff's Notes. Fear God. Keep his commandments. For this is the all that you're expected to do. But you got to learn how to allow the hard work to help you to understand how the Cliff Notes make sense to you. You'll never comprehend certain things if you're always running from the work. I'm in a season where I'm running into the work. I'm in a season where I got to turn work down. I got too much work. I can't do that in this season. I got to put this off for another season because I'm focused on this. But if you're trying to reduce your load all the time and trying to throw off on other people, you're going to end up with a life you don't want. Because in the end, the only thing that matters is how does this align me with him? How does this keep me on track with where he wants me to be? Father God, I thank you today.